Well, last week I talked about how Mary came to the tomb seeing Jesus, and she declares, "I have seen the Lord." She had a personal experience of Jesus. Today, the disciples get to have that same experience, and their cry is, "We have seen the Lord." In the Gospel of John, to experience Jesus, to truly believe, is to have a relationship with him. And to have a relationship, of course, one has to interact with another person, right? But what about Thomas? He missed it. Now the story starts with the disciples hiding behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jews, in my air quotes. This means the leaders who arrested Jesus, not Jewish people in general, because they were also Jewish. They were scared of being arrested. But maybe they're also hiding from Jesus a bit. They had just failed him. They abandoned him. They denied him. Mary told them that Jesus was coming to meet them, so maybe they were kind of afraid of what he was going to do to them. But of course, Jesus can't be held back by a locked door. And he appears to the disciples, and instead of scolding them, he brings them peace. Peace which is much more than just tranquility or quiet. It is a peace that passes all understanding, as we like to say. A deep and holistic sense of well-being. This is a kind of peace that no earthly force can give us. And then Jesus commissions them, breathes the Holy Spirit upon them, and sends them out into the world. This was probably a most amazing, mind-blowing spiritual experience. But where was Thomas? He wasn't there. Maybe he was out buying bread for dinner, or getting some blankets or some new sandals or whatever, who knows. The point is, he missed it. He missed Jesus coming back. So he feels a little left out. And we tend to kind of think badly about Thomas because he says he wants to see the wounds. He wants to feel the wounds. But if you think about it, he really isn't asking for anything more or less than what the other disciples got. The others saw Jesus' wounds. The other ones got the Holy Spirit too, and Thomas didn't get anything. So maybe we shouldn't call him Doubting Thomas. Maybe we should call him Disappointed Thomas, or Left Out Thomas, Skeptical Thomas, Envious Thomas. Did I miss it, Thomas? So after all, we don't call Peter Denying Peter, or Mark Ran Away Naked Mark. So why do we call him Doubting Thomas? But Jesus, of course, does not leave Thomas out. He doesn't forget, and a week later he shows up again, lets Thomas touch his wounds, and have what the others got. So I imagine that was a very stressful week for Thomas, waiting and waiting. Jesus let him sweat it out a little bit. But in the end, Thomas gets what he needs, what was promised. And he gives us a statement of trust and relationship. He says to Jesus, "My Lord and my God." My Lord, my God. Now this is a very personal declaration, and this is a recurring theme in John, the personal relationship. To believe means to have a relationship, and Jesus forms lasting relationships all through the stories with the people he heals, the people he speaks with, has conversations with. And here he appears to Thomas to solidify their relationship. But it's natural for us to act like the disciples, to kind of hunker down and lock all the doors when you feel anxious or scared or left out, sad. It's natural to try to hide away when we're feeling overwhelmed by life. But you can't hide from Jesus or our responsibilities to him, because he can break through any door any doubt, any disbelief. It takes longer for some people to realize it than others. For some people, they experience Christ easily and quickly like a lightning bolt, like some of the disciples in the story today. For others, it takes time and work, like Thomas. But it doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we get there. And then Jesus says one last thing to Thomas. He says, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe." This seems like maybe a little dig at Thomas, like he's getting scolded here. But I think there needs to be a little more space between those two sentences and the story before. Because remember that John wrote this book for a generation of people who had never met Jesus personally and had never seen the resurrected Jesus. Most of them probably weren't even born yet at the time when all this happened. So that's the audience for this book. That's us. The second sentence here is directly to us. This is a blessing to all who will come to believe without the benefit of seeing Jesus in person. People who will believe by hearing the story. And we hear this story week after week, the story of God's love for us. And we come to faith, and we are blessed. And after all, faith is a hard thing. God never said faith was easy. It's hard to believe in something that you can't touch or see. And John holds up Thomas as an example of how even the most skeptical person can come to have faith. And Jesus didn't just come back in the past. He comes back constantly, day after day, week after week. Jesus is here now. In the bread and the wine, in the Spirit, in the Word, in the music, in us, in our community. And in the midst of the fear and pain, anxiety we have, and even doubt, Jesus always comes back. Always bringing peace and giving us the Holy Spirit. This Holy Spirit that helps us to not be so skeptical or have doubt, but rather to have strength to come out from behind our own locked doors and live out his mission in the world, declaring, "My Lord and my God," and telling everyone, "I have seen the Lord." In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.